Welcome back to the Protein Bros podcast, guys. I'm one of your hosts, Jeff Wasserman, and today we had on Markus Kaulius, former CEO and founder of Magnum Nutraceuticals, a long-standing brand from Canada, something we've carried in our stores for years and years. He talks about the sale of his company back in 2023 and how he has since written this book, How to Play a Bigger Game. And I can't express this enough. Markus is one of the most gifted speakers you will ever hear speak. Can articulate thoughts that are very complex in a very easy to understand layman's term way. We get into a lot of things, his history, where he came from, how he got here, but also just his mindset and how he attacks problems every day. The book seems to be extremely powerful. Make sure you guys pick this up, read into it, listen in on the podcast. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. And as always, if you are listening to our podcast, we very much appreciate any support you can give. Please like, please comment, please share. We do not sell ads. We 100% rely on the listener to help us grow the podcast. And so if you're getting any value whatsoever, we just ask that you simply share the podcast up and let people know about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Let's get to it.
The whole point of this book is to give, make real impact for people. Mm-hmm. I love changing lives. Like I didn't do this. Like I hope I make money off of it. I don't care.
Yeah.
If this changes one life, the book was worth it.
Honestly, man, since the first time we met you, it's been very apparent that this is it's a calling for you. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
Like it's I know you've owned, businesses and done that, and I think that's just been a conduit for you to, do the bigger mission, which has always seemed like you're so good at motivating people, man.
Oh, thank you.
And the way that you talk about things, I don't know if you've ever been bored in your life.
That's well said.
Yeah.
I allow boredom once in a while. Who was it? It was David Meltzer. His mom said one of the smartest things: only stupid people get bored.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh man, that's a good call, because every time I've said to myself, oh, I'm so bored, I'm like, come on, bro, you're smarter than this.
Yeah. I purposely every now and then, like to not fill my brain with things, because it's like in our world today, it's like constant podcasts, constant music, constant. Yeah. And it's like sometimes I like to just let my mind wander, like go mow my lawn and not listen to anything, So
it's almost meditation at that point.
Yeah. Well, think of how few people actually allow their own thoughts to catch.
Yeah.
We're filling our brains constantly with everyone else's thoughts. That's what a podcast is. That's what music is. Consumption. Mm-hmm. Totally. And when we're alone with our own thoughts for 5 seconds, it's like, hey, what's that? What's going on there? What a crazy thought, just to go, hey, shut everything off for a bit. Mm-hmm. What would happen if you just took some time to yourself? It was actually my brilliant wife who said that to me. And I was like, oh, I got to do that more intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does intentionally like that look like for you?
Oh, that's a great question. By the way, I love the word intentionally, because there's very few people on this planet doing things intentionally anymore. And when you put intention into something, it makes it grow so fast. So for me, I take my mornings, and I always encourage people to do this in the morning, because less has hit you, less is already going on, your brain's not wired towards social media and towards instant impact stuff. So I can just actually calm down. So I take 2 to 5 minutes. And for me, I'm just trying to actually listen to God and just be like, what am I hearing? What am I supposed to be doing today? What am I supposed to be used for today? And the number one thing it brings me, and I know it brings everybody else, is peace. You just calm down and you go, yeah, maybe I don't have to do everything social media tells me to do. Maybe I don't have to do what my boss is coming down on. Maybe I don't have to feel the pain or the pressure that this world wants me to feel. And when you come from that place, you can make real impact.
Oh, Mike, I agree. The grounding of yourself there in the morning. I spent a good solid at least 5 years of my life where the first thing I would do is check my phone when I woke up. Yep. And my day was then officially dictated to me.
Yes.
That was wild. And you don't realize like how much that affects you.
Huge.
Unbelievable. So you're here in Kansas City. We're promoting a book. It's your first book ever.
Yes.
Play a bigger game.
Yes.
You've been playing, we've looked up to you for a lot of years, Markus. We've been doing this 17 years, and you were in the game for what, close to 20 years?
25 years in the industry.
25 years in the industry, 19 years as a CEO and owner.
Yes, sir.
And, I was a minimum wage hourly employee 17 years ago, and I remember hearing about the amount of this Quattro protein that was being sold at one of our competitor stores. I was like, what is this brand? We have to get it in, so on and so forth. And Magnum Nutraceuticals. Did I say it correctly?
You
all
got
the way?
Because
I think you were the first person to ever make me hear the word nutraceutical. I'm serious when I say that. Were you not the first?
Oh, I would not claim to be the first. Like it's not a word I made up.
I didn't know if it was from a. Oh, I know. I meant like from a terms of attached to a supplement brand.
Oh,
sports nutrition.
I don't know if I ever heard it from someone else, but I don't want to be like, I'm so smart. No. I'm sure I stole it from some. No.
But I want to hear first and foremost just what got your introductory into fitness, because I know at one point you've always been a rather tall guy. You're 6'4", right?
Yeah, 6'6".
6'6".
Yeah.
But in this book, 6'4", 150 pounds.
120
pounds.
$120.
How old were you?
It was 13, 14 when I hit my Lithuanian growth spurt.
My gosh.
Yeah. I'm
still waiting for mine, so be happy.
I got no complaints, but man, it looked like you think it looked. Actually, it's in the book, that picture. It's pretty bad. I don't even know what page.
Luke's got you.
Yeah,
Luke's gonna put it right here, right, Luke?
There we go.
Look at that. Man, that's
what's in the bag?
Tennis racket.
Heck yeah.
Is that what got you into fitness originally, was playing tennis?
No. I got into a car accident, and the insurance company put me with a personal trainer, which is crazy.
What are the odds? Like, what a great gift. They would never do that now.
That's what I was thinking. And even at that time, I was like, this is weird. But
that makes way too much sense.
Way too much sense. Because the guy's like, we need to put some muscle on you. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. Yeah. And it just got me excited about working out. And then I became fanatic about working out. And, I was very blessed at a young age. There was a dude who grew up near me, same body as me. And then one year he shows up to school and he was already a man. He was 230 pounds of muscle because he had juiced it hard for about a year. And I was like, oh my goodness. And everyone was like, this guy's a man. But he had every negative stereotype of steroids.
Back knee.
You
bad
name
attitude.
Yeah.
Dude, his roid rage, I actually once witnessed him pick a child up over his head, like, and I say child, he was the same age as us, and throw him on the ground. Like, it was like, he got into a fist fight with our PE teacher.
And he won?
Yeah. Well, he was jacked.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, okay, so steroids, I'll never do that. So what's my alternative? And so I just started learning about supplements, and I loved it. And I'm like, I want to keep up with a guy like that. So I'm going to just like take all the supplements. And it wasn't long before all my buddies were like, well, this is the supplement guy. Let's go ask him questions. And people are asking me questions all the time. And I guess my entrepreneurial brain started to kick in at that point. I'm like, why am I not selling supplements? And so I started selling supplements out of my bedroom at a pretty young age. And there was actually a really cool entrepreneurial story here. Is it all right if I share this with you guys?
Please do.
Because I think a lot of people like this one. This was a breaking limiting beliefs. And I was in university at the time, and we did this case study on this woman who called the CEO of Wendy's restaurants. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're not allowed to just call the CEO. You can't do that. But she did. And she got results from it. And so I went.
Was it Dave Thomas? The owner of Wendy's?
No, he's the creator, but he wasn't the CEO at the time. Okay. But it really broke something for me that I'm like, well, who am I thinking is that CEO that I'm not supposed to be calling? And literally that night, I still remember, it was a Tuesday. Tuesday, we were doing that case study. Tuesday night, right before my head hit the pillow, I had this whole business plan. I was going to call my favorite supplement brands. And at that time, it was ProLab, by the way.
ProLab, okay.
ProLab. And I contacted the distributor. And I was like, I'm going to get the CEO on the phone, and I'm not going to get off the phone until I get a yes. And what I want to do is I want to sell this stuff out of my bedroom. And so I got him on the phone. I took a few phone calls. It took some cajoling to even get him on the phone. And his answer was a hard no. But I didn't let him off the phone. I was just like, we need to talk about this. Tell me your concerns. Why would you not let me say, well, you don't have a store. That right there, that's not cool, because guys who own stores are going to have to compete with you, and you sell something you're just going to cause me too much headache. I said, I will be your greatest success story. And I kept him on the phone and I got a yes.
No kidding.
And then 2 days later, I had $10,000 of supplements in my bedroom. And dudes started to come by, and I was selling supplements for a few years. And my buddies all coined me the healthy drug dealer for those years, because I was getting pages back in the day. And guys were coming by, and I was like, I was watching movies and stuff during the day while guys are coming over. It was awesome. And then I moved into my next, which was supplement stores. And that's why I think we relate very well.
Yeah. Sure.
I knew I needed more, and I'm selling all these supplements out of my bedroom. There's strangers coming to my bedroom. It was getting weird. And
Did they have to get by the gatekeeper that was your parents, or were you living on your own?
No, I was on my own.
Okay.
I was on my own early on.
Pumping iron, just playing in the background at all times.
all the time. You remember Boogie Nights? When,
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, this guy in the corner throwing down the firecrackers. No. It was awesome. Yeah. So, and then after I had my supplement stores, I had 3 supplement stores, but I just kept questioning, like, what's next? How do I get bigger than this? How do I hit the numbers I want to hit personally, and bigger numbers? How do I create bigger numbers? And that's when I started my brand in January 17th of 2005.
I got to ask. Oh, sorry. I got a good one for this.
Okay. Go ahead.
It's a good one.
It might be the same question.
I don't think so. Oh. So it was this is a question I would ask for sure. So when you're at this age of you calling the ProLab CEO, how old are you here?
I think it was about 19 or 20.
So I'd ask, this drive, this determination, this perseverance that you had at this age, and this removing of limiting beliefs. What was it, if you can remember back to that time, that just truly found, what was at the root of that? Were you trying to, what was basically like your North Star? What was your finish line that you were trying to get to in that moment?
Oh, I love this question. I love this question because I'm hoping people are going to hear something that they relate to in my answer, because they hear about the good things that have happened in my life, the businesses and stuff. And I know there's people, I can't even relate to this guy. And especially when they see me in a suit and they're like, well, I don't have a suit like that.
It's a good looking suit.
It's a damn good looking suit.
I saw you. I was like, damn, I should have worn my suit.
The Paisley Pocket Square. I got to give it a shout out.
My first 15 years were just so bad. I was so stuck in life. I had a crappy life. Product of divorce, and it was a messy divorce. And I don't think there's too many people who are like, oh, well, my parents had a good divorce. But at 7, now my dad's gone, and my mom, she had to go back to school full time, work full time. So I truly lost my mom and dad on the same day. And it was so crappy. Everything about my life was crappy. I was so stuck. And I had this belief that there was nothing better. And those are my first 15 years. And 15 years going, I'm going to make nothing of myself. And then I really felt God woke me up, and there was something that changed at 15, and I hit my rock bottom, and I'm like, I'm not going back to that ever again. So when you ask what was pulling me, it was actually what was pushing me, which is just the nightmare that's behind me. I have to do more with my life. I will do more with my life. And as soon as you start getting that mentality and you start figuring out the mindset stuff, the perspective shifts. I was very blessed. I was introduced to Tony Robbins' cassette tapes at 15. So he's been my mentor for 30 full years now. And it just unlocked something that's like, yeah, I can, why am I thinking like this? And change it and learn. And it's a process. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, man, I could help any teenager through this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to. It's one of the things I'm actually called to do. I love working with teenagers now, because what an age where you're just like, man, this life either sucks, or like, how am I going to do something with this? Man, I was once there.
Yeah. And their impression is, they're very impressionable.
Yes.
Right. It's just such a great time to mold and shape yourself.
Yes. So ultimately, I'm pushed by fear of going back there, and just I had that long enough. And I think there's anybody who's stuck right now, if you recognize you're stuck, just recognize you don't want to be there. You don't have to be there anymore. You can change it today. You can make a choice today, and everything will start to change. Will it change overnight? Will you be a radically different person by tomorrow? No. But if you had a little more belief in yourself, wouldn't that be such a huge positive change that could turn into something more each and every day? And then couple that with the principle of, I just want to grow 1% each day. If my only responsibility is to be 1% better than I was yesterday, it's very doable. Well, listen to a podcast, do something with it, digest it, talk about it with somebody. You are 1% better. Go get a good workout in and then share that with somebody. Share an experience with somebody. Read a bit of a book today. Those 1% compound so much. And after 6 months, after a year, after 6 years, you will start to notice, oh my goodness, I am a totally different person.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it, man. And when you talk about being that young, having those perspectives and listening to Tony Robbins, was this Awaken the Giant Within? Was that the first one?
I couldn't even tell you at this point.
Yeah.
I just know my brother had the cassettes.
Oh, you don't even know to listen to them in order or anything like that, right?
No, you just pop something in and you're like, I don't even know what this is.
That's
And
amazing.
don't forget what that was. We're talking 30 years ago.
Yeah, there was nothing like that around, not in the same way that there is
It's not
now.
as easy to even know which one. Yeah. I mean, like when I was that age, I was like popping in wrestling tapes and didn't know which which pay-per-view event was in order. You know what I mean? But you're in a spot where I feel like the fuel just burns differently at that age because you have so much to prove and you haven't proven it to yourself yet. And you have these limiting beliefs, but you're ripping them off based, you have this new, foundational belief that you're changing in yourself. And and the one part I want to really highlight from you is the action that you took, because we can consume these podcasts and we can read these books, and so something about, especially with the Play a Bigger Game, something I absolutely love about this book is the challenges that you put in here.
Thank you.
Because the amount of people, we are so apt to being around people in the personal development space. The CEO of our company, Andy Frisella, is very big in the personal development space.
Yeah.
And the amount of people that post their books like trophies to social media. And I finally got fed up, and I'm not usually a soapbox person, but I got on Instagram one day and I just said, hey, for the love of all that is holy, could you guys please stop posting the books you're reading? Tell me what you did based on the book you read.
Oh, yes.
Just please stop talking to me about all these, you read a chapter. No one cares. I want to know what you did.
Yeah.
I want to know what action you took, or what did you find in this book that you found so valuable that you actually worked it into your daily life. And so the fact that you have these challenges in this book, so excited to talk about it. Where did that come from?
I just feel like I can see so clearly that one of the biggest problems with our society today is nobody's taking action. We consume. We're a consumer society. We consume on social media. We consume the books, which is a much better thing to consume than social media. But you're just like you said, without action, nothing changes. And when I talk to people and I say, hey, you could literally imagine a situation where you read every book on the planet, but took zero action. Your life would not be 1% better. In fact, it would be a lot worse because you'd know what you should be doing. Mm-hmm. But if you read a chapter of a book and took a bunch of action on it, your life can radically change today. And that's exactly what happened for me. And so I'm a big believer in just take some action. And it's not only because I want to see change in that way, but when you start taking action, you start to build confidence in yourself. Like, I have more control over my life than I'm giving the impression of. People think everything's out of our control. And that's why I believe social media wants us to feel. The algorithms want us to feel, like politics want us to feel like, hey, you're not in control. Like, isn't this world so scary? Let me sell you some stuff right now to make you feel a little less scared and a little more comfortable. I'm like, screw that. I'm in control. I don't even have to consume that stuff. What if you stopped watching news? What do you think would happen to your life? Whenever I ask that question, people are like, oh man, I'd be so much happier. And it's like, so why are you consuming the news? And that answer that people give me of like, well, I don't want to be out of touch with what's happening. You'll still hear what's happening. You'll still know what's going on in Russia.
And here's the deeper question. Why do you care what's happening?
Right.
Can you change it?
Yeah.
Are you going to change it?
Right.
You're not going to change it, so then you shouldn't care.
Yeah. It's like you're watching a horror movie on repeat 24/7 and you're wondering why you go to bed scared at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched the news in years.
With books, because I got in the habit of, I would read a book, I would pick up another book, I'd read that book, I'd pick up another book, I'd read that book. And I started realizing like, I'm just cosplaying success, basically.
Yeah.
And so I started taking notes and like trying to apply the chapters of the book to tangible things in my life. And what I realized is like, if I slow down the pace of reading books and I'm only reading like one book every, 3 months, but I'm taking notes on it and I'm actually applying it to my life. And honestly, with a lot of books, a lot of the themes can run similar, right? So you might get, one thing out of that book, but if you can apply that one thing, it's so much better than just back to back to back to back to back to back, which I was in the habit of doing.
People like to take what they've read and they can apply it in the form of a conversation, but they don't have any kind of real practical. This is what I actually did in my life every day to put it into practice, right? And what I want to get into specifically with your book, Play a Bigger Game. You have 7 principles in there, okay? Out of those 7 principles, can you please walk us through what one principle would be, and then the challenge that you have in there, which is the most beautiful thing because everything's very abstract in the personal development world. We speak in these really large generalities, and you're giving people practical steps they could take that day to start applying those principles. So can you take just one of your favorites, please?
Sure.
And what that principle is, and then what's the challenge to help somebody start putting that principle into their life?
Oh, this is so good. So just for clarity, I love this. There's 7 principles, but each principle has like 10 to 20 other principles underneath it. So I want to talk about choice because we already started kind of talking about choice. And the whole point of this principle of choice is to help you recognize how much control you actually have in your life and to take back that control because you always had it, but you're handing it over. You're handing it over to the news. You're handing it over to politics. You're handing it over to social media. So one of my favorite challenges is the mind diet, and to give yourself a 24-hour diet for your mind. And if you take up this challenge, you're going to go off of social media for 24 hours. Just take it down. Just don't look at it. Don't open your phone. Do whatever you have to do to stay away for 24 hours.
You got to delete it because most people...
Right? There's notifications keep coming. What am I missing? The FOMO is kicking in. It's unreal how just unplugging from social media for 24 hours, especially if you're the type of person who consumes a lot of social media. If you're the person who's like, I look at it for 2 minutes, well, then choose a different one of my challenges for the start. But this one impacts people so crazy. Like their brains literally start to rewire in 24 hours. It's like, I'm having thoughts that I didn't have in a long time. I feel more clarity. I feel more hope. I feel less pain, less fear. I sleep better. Like there's all these things that happen. And no, not everybody's going to experience that in the first 24 hours, but it's amazing how many people experience one or many of those things. And in just 24 hours, and it's like, okay, so why would you go back? Like, tell me what it is. Where are you getting so much benefit? And it's funny, as entrepreneurs, we always give ourselves the excuse, well, I'm building my business on social media. And it's like, okay, how much business? How much business are you building? And if you spent 3 hours on there and you took those 3 hours and you put them towards something else, anything else for your business, you go hand out flyers for 3 hours. You tell me which one is going to build your business better.
You tell all of our managers that right now.
Nice. Oops. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good.
With social media, I feel like
it's
the new way of disassociating. So it's like people used to, and I mean, people still do use drugs, alcohol, smoke cigarettes, all those things also help with disassociation too. But now it's in your pocket all the time, and it's as soon as you get bored.
Yeah,
I don't have to be bored. I can just look at social media.
I'm just gonna go numb out over here.
But here's the thing about social media. I think it's becoming more and more and more garbage.
Yeah,
so
truly, right?
It's almost like it's not consumable anymore, hardly.
Yeah, people. I mean, this is just pure, personal feelings here on this. But I have no research or anything to show. But it just, from my own anecdotal evidence, day in and day out, it just seems that the internet is becoming a place where it's just like no one knows what to believe anymore because the amount of information that's out there.
Yeah.
And so it's just getting worse and worse in the sense of like our value of entertainment just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so when I say that, I mean like the only things that get clicks and so forth is just the extremes now. So when I click on any like innocent post, right?
Yeah.
The comments is any
wildest comments of all time.
Only the most unbelievable comments go to the top, and it's just like the most hateful, the most mean, the most extreme.
Yeah.
You know
It's
what
the
I mean?
most dunking on, like people are just looking to dunk on other people. It's getting wild. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's like, the amount of negativity isn't just kind of negative. It's like the most extreme negative you could possibly imagine. So, it's just, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. I'm kind of speechless on it, to be honest.
No, I'm so on the same page with you. I think everybody is nodding their head going, yep. So here's one of my other challenges in the book, that if people take me up on this, the people who do, it's so radically life-changing. How often are we posting and recognizing that negativity in our own circles? You post something and then there's some negative comments come in. And the crazy thing about the way our brains are designed now, you could have 200 super positive comments. Kyle, you are the man. You're amazing. Kyle, you're a jerk and blah, blah, blah. Which one are you going to remember? Which is the one that wakes you up in the middle of the night? There's 200 unreal comments, and then there's one person who you don't even know, you don't care about, but why did they say that about me? They don't know me. Block and walk. It's one of my favorite terms, block and walk. We're so scared to block. Why? Why are you scared to block this person you don't know? You're not welcome in my life with that toxicity. And I protect my community that way. So it's really cool. The more I block people and just walk away, forget about them, the more I've created a positive community. So people know they can come to my posts. They can comment on my stuff. They're not going to get harassed. They're not ever even going to have to see that. Like, it's not comfortable. You look at a fun video, you look at a cute video of a golden retriever playing with a kitty cat, and then the top comments are these negative, you should never put a dog and a cat in the same room and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, it doesn't feel good to even read these comments. Mm-hmm. So I created a community, like a bubble around myself, which I guess by admitting that out here, I'm probably inviting a whole bunch of jerks around. But it's
no
such
one
a beautiful
to Protein Bros as a jerk. Not a single one.
We don't have any jerks on our podcast.
All right, that's so good. But that way, why not protect yourself and your community in that way? And then people will start to go, I've never felt negativity when I'm looking at this guy's posts.
That's great. I think that's a great piece of advice for everybody else as well.
Yeah.
Now you're in a spot where I want to ping pong back to, you have these really, really great things that you've said through this book, but what makes you so relatable is the amount of experience that you have with going through life at such in a way that is so intentional. So we leave off with you at 19 years old, and you're selling these ProLab supplements. I want to get back to the ascendance of starting Magnum Nutraceuticals, the lessons learned along the way, as well as, spoiler for our listeners, a really big exit, years later that involved having to make it through COVID, which was just a very interesting time. So
yes.
I'd love to walk through just kind of what that journey was like and somehow try to fit it in here.
I love it. I'll try and do the first part quick here, because it's one of my favorite things to bring up with people. How often do we stop and go, am I still on the path I want to be on? We start on a path, and it usually starts at a really young age, and it's set by standards and dreams that we had when we were really, really young. Maybe we were 7 or 8 years old, and we put certain things in our heads, and our 20 or 25, 30-year-old selves are still trying to accomplish these things. And you once in a while stop and go, wait, is this what I want? And so this is exactly what happened. I'm selling ProLab out of my bedroom, and I started to question, like, okay, what am I trying to do here? And what's next? Am I hitting the targets? And I was hitting some great numbers back in those days, especially selling supplements out of my bedroom, doing this part-time. But I had my next target. This is how much money I want to make next. I can't do it here. I guess I could, but it's going to require me doing things I don't want to be doing in my bedroom. And so the next step was I opened a supplement store, and then that turned into 3 supplement stores, and that was going great. And then I said, same conversation. Okay, what do I want to hit next? And am I going to hit those next? And I hit my targets, but now I got bigger targets. Can I do it at the stores? And I know you guys probably have that conversation quite a bit. And the answer was, if I have 10 stores, I'll hit my numbers. I don't want to have 10 stores. And so I really felt like God gave me Magnum at that point and said, you're going to have your own brand. If you do it with your own brand, now you can sell to other stores. And that's what I started doing. And so for 19 years, and I loved it, man. You guys know this well about me. Like, I loved having my own brand. I loved making impact. And when I had my own brand, it was like, I'm in control of the marketing. I'm in control of what goes into these bottles. I will search the planet for the cleanest ingredients, the best formulas, what's new, what's hot, and then make it exciting, and then get some great athletes talking about it, taking this stuff. And that's what I did for 19 years. I mean, I'm getting excited and warm just talking about it again, right? And then there was a point, and it was during COVID, and I've got a great COVID story that I'd love to share with you in a moment, but where I felt God say, your next chapter is about to start. And it was just so exciting. I was just, yes. I don't know what that's going to look like, but yes. And it was within 7 days that I started writing the book.
Wow.
You're in a spot where I think, my generation, millennials, Gen Z, I feel like there's starting to be some kind of a resurgence with people in organized religion and bringing that back more into the populace, more as being standard versus it being rare.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about that conversation with God where you felt like you had that. What kind of process do you go through to have that conversation? When do you start feeling led in that direction?
Oh, I'm so grateful for that question, by the way. Thank you. So I love talking with God, and I agree. I think people are starting to look for it now because, man, we've searched everywhere else. And, when you meet somebody who has a good relationship with God, you should be seeing a lot of peace in their lives. That's the number one thing I think people are drawn to. And a confidence in, I'm on the right path. So my day with God that day, I was just in prayer on the way home. So I had music off, just quiet and driving. I had my eyes open. And I was just in prayer, God, what would you have me do next? What's going on in my life? Just give me some guidance. I'd love to hear your voice. And we talked about this earlier, Kyle, of how often do we just take some time to just be quiet? And it's really wild. And as a Christian, one of my favorite things to do is just stop doing everything and try and get all the thoughts out of my head and just say, God, I'm listening. Because I truly believe God is speaking to every one of us all the time. But we're just never listening. You got 5 seconds, you're waiting for an elevator, you've pulled out your phone. Mm-hmm. It's wild, right? There's no time where you're actually just calming down and letting the thoughts slip. And I think God's speaking to us in different ways. So everybody thinks Moses and there's a burning bush and speaking. And yeah, that sometimes happens. But more often than not, God will speak to us in a way that you can hear it. And I don't know how he will speak to you. But for me, he speaks to me in many different ways. And I really feel it on my heart. I really need to do this. I couldn't even tell you why. I've got to go this way. And when you follow that, it gets really exciting. So my number one, the first step I would recommend for anybody is find somebody in your life that you respect, that has God. Just have a conversation. Just a conversation. Don't worry, everybody. You're not going to get converted in one conversation, but just have that conversation. And it's really important that you respect them, because if you don't respect them, you're just going to be going in with a really dark attitude. But just ask some questions like, what's your relationship? Why did you turn to God? And go ahead and say, what has God done for you? That's an exciting thing. So if I might answer just a quick version of that question, God gives me so much peace about everything in my life. And the number one thing that I love that he's given me, I get to see every challenge that's in front of me as a beautiful gift. No matter how challenging, no matter how horrifying. And the reason is he's taken off the veil that anything in my past that was horrifying, that was a tough challenge, that was brutal to go through, was actually the times when I was growing the most. So if I'm growing the most from challenges, aren't challenges something that we should be looking forward to? But we don't. And if we approach them with fear and pain, and I lose sleep over these challenges, man, it takes so much longer to go through them. I probably don't learn all the correct lessons. But what if I just said, there's a challenge in front of me? That's freaking awesome. And I'm not talking about just silver lining stuff or hey, have a positive attitude, everybody. But really going, I know I'm going to grow from this. It's going to be tough. There's no question it's going to be tough. But I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to put in my work against this challenge. I'm going to learn everything I can. So when I get to the other side of this, I'm going to not just be a little bit better of a human being. I'm going to be a unbelievably bigger, more amazing version of myself.
Certainly more resilient too.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. And that's what I'm getting at, is because I think so often we get into these, stories of people persevering or going through some kind of development stage, and the practical steps, sometimes you can get caught up in not knowing what to do in those scenarios. So it's I grew up, I didn't have a very close relationship with God at all. And so it's when someone says oh, I talked to God, I'm like, well, how's that look? Right? What does that look like to you? And what kind of process do you do to feel comfortable in that space? Right. Awesome. So that's why I figured I'd ask. So
I love that.
In case there's anybody else that was like me, like I would want to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
So we're having that conversation. You say, I'm going to write a book. Next step, do you start immediately or do you wait a minute? Do you like look up, do you Google how to write a book?
I just started typing. I think this is a great question because I think this is with anything in life. If you haven't done it before, sure, you don't know what you're doing. But what if you just started? Yeah, absolutely. Do some Googling if that's going to help you get some clarity. One of the things I tell people all the time is I learn 90% of what I need to know when I'm on the journey. That means 10% at max I can learn before I start walking. Mm-hmm. So I don't take too long in that research phase. I start moving and you guys would really appreciate and know this well. How often do you start on the path and you go, oh my goodness, we can't keep going this way. We got to pivot immediately. But the more you've invested up front and like, no, I better stay on this path because I did all the research and I'm supposed to stay on it. I'm nimble, man. I'm like, hey, there's a freaking wall right there. And look, I need to go around it over here. So you learn so much just by taking action. Like we're going back to the same thing. Just you start taking action, start learning immediately. And especially when it comes to big new things, I'm writing a book. I'm not trying to necessarily be the best right out the gate. I was called to write this book. I know this book is going to have impact on people. I know there's things I've gone through in my life that's going to help others who are feeling stuck or relate in one way or another. So I just got to get the stuff down on paper first. And then I will talk to experts and I'll keep surrounding myself by people who've been on this journey, who already know this stuff, who can give me advice and not all of it you take. Some of it you take and you discard immediately, but the stuff that's like, actually, that sounds like it would work for me. But until you start having those conversations, you're not going to learn. And until you start going down that path, you're not going to have those conversations. Mm-hmm. So my encouragement to you today, everybody, is take that first step.
And was it COVID that spurred this step for you? What was that story?
Well, okay. There's this wonderful time in COVID that I love sharing this story. And I know you guys are going to appreciate this too, because retail, holy smokes, horrifying, right?
Mm-hmm. It was the worst nightmare.
Worst nightmare. So in February, just the end of February of 2020, it's just about to be the Arnold Classic. I've invested a ton, and for the first time
ever, I
had
tickets to that as well, by the way.
There you go.
I was going to go.
There you go. Mm-hmm. And they start to talk more about this COVID thing that we've heard only a little bit about, but it's like it's starting to get real. And I don't know if that's when Tom Hanks got it, but that's when everybody got real scared. Mm-hmm. But when they canceled the Arnold 3 days before the Arnold Classic, holy smokes! That's when we all went, "Oh crap! This thing's going to change and wreck everything." Yeah. I'll never forget, I did what I can the first few weeks, but then I started to get into fear mindset. In Canada, our government went crazy. Literally every hour there were new rules. And I had to sit down with my executive team. Okay, how do we deal with these new rules? And the costs kept adding up. And then of course, nobody's spending anything. Our sales dropped 70% that month. That's horrifying. And I went into prayer and I was like, God, you gave me the business. You might be taking it away right now. And if that's the case, I accept it. But help me to learn what I need to learn and do what I need to do. I threw myself a pity party, and I don't remember if it was like 45 or 60 days. I wish I was man enough to just go, oh yeah, it was just 24 hours. And then I learned my own principles. 45 to 60 days, pity party. And it was embarrassing. And I felt gross about it. I lost sleep over it. Then this thought, and again, I'll give credit to God for this thought. I'm not a bench warmer. I'm a starting lineup guy. And I remember this thought going, man, people are going to do so well. There's going to be certain guys, like Mark Cuban. I bet Mark Cuban's going to do amazing things in COVID. He's going to come up with, wait a minute. I'm not that guy. I'm not just a cheerleader. Get off the frickin' bench, Marcus. You will have a story for COVID that will blow people away. So you have to start doing it right now. The next day, I came in and I started talking with my staff and I said, hey, pity party's over. We are going to do something amazing. There are businesses growing right now. We are going to tell our story. And it starts right at this meeting. I want new revenue streams. Come up with something new. And we had just moved into a building that was almost 2.5 times the size, had more than 2.5 times the size of the mortgage. So that was extra stressful. But we had all this space. And I said, guys, get me some renters for this space. There's people who need space today. And they're, oh, come on, Marcus, all the businesses are going away. Don't you know what's happening? And I was like, that's such bullcrap. You think Purell isn't looking for warehouse space right now? Somebody who sells toilet paper isn't looking for space right now? Like, these companies were doing not 5X or 10X. They were like 100X overnight.
Yeah.
Less than 24 hours, we had our first renter. It was probiotic gum, which I didn't know that was a thing. And we had $7,000 of rental income starting the very next day. Now, $7,000 isn't life-changing, but it was, the point was made. Look, it took less than 24 hours for us to get on a different track. And then we started to gain gain momentum. People were like, holy smokes, we can get clients just that quickly? Yes, that's how things work. People are looking right this minute. Do you have your doors open to accept them in? And all of a sudden we start building business that way. And then we start to have better ideas. Just having that mindset of, hey, I can do this. There's something that can be done. If you are saying to yourself, there's nothing that can be done, then guess what? You're right. And you can go ahead and close your doors today. All you have to do is say something can be done. And then let your brain start figuring it out. Start talking to more people. Start talking to other people who've done it, who are ahead of you on the path. Maybe there's people coming back from the path. There's so many mentors out there who love working with people who are on that same path as them and going, hey, I faced those same struggles. I'd love to help you. I'm one of those guys. One of my favorite things to do is to help other young entrepreneurs who are coming up. Not necessarily young, I'm not an ageist, but maybe a youthful entrepreneur who's like, hey, I'm coming up. Is there something you could teach me about this and that? I love that stuff. So use that. Those mentors are available to everybody. Just start going after them and be really respectful. Be very grateful. That's how you get in their doors. Yeah, there it is.
I love that.
So how long did it take for your sales to start rebounding?
Ooh. Do you know what? Actually, I think that's a great question. And the fact that I don't actually know the answer is something that I really like, because the point was our minds changed right away.
Yeah.
And the sales started to come. So I can tell you this. In my 19 years with Magnum, 18 of those years saw growth and record numbers. 1 year was a dip. That was COVID. And I don't feel bad about that because it was a lot of months that you were way down. But then the very next year we set new sales records.
Yeah, for us, when all that was going down, I didn't really ever feel pity. I felt anger, a lot of anger at the mismanagement that seemed rampant. Yep. And, going back to what you were saying about controlling what you control, we kind of had the same type of meeting, and we were like, well, we're going to have to start delivering. We're going to have to start doing, we're going to have to, we came up
with service.
We came up with a fundraiser. So we were like, all these gyms are out of, they're not able to.
We got to stay open, Marcus, and the gyms couldn't.
Oh yeah.
So we tried to do a fundraiser to help those gyms.
That's awesome.
And so we did that stuff. And, looking back on it, there's videos of us like wearing gloves and no mask. Like, you remember that time. It was just, for lack of a better term, it was a bunch of stupid stuff going on that didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
And, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, if you have a culture built around your business, the people that love you will still support you and get you, they'll help bridge the gap in between times like that. Yeah. And it seems like Magnum, what you'd built over those 19 years basically prepared you to bridge the gap, when COVID came around. And it was kind of the same thing for us. It was like people were reaching out and wanting to support us because they knew retail was getting kicked in the teeth, pretty hard.
It was almost everybody. I'll never forget, one of the coolest things was a local restaurant who couldn't stay open, of course, to get their staff paid just to keep everybody afloat. Yep. They would do like a drive-by pickup service of just like burgers and fries only, right?
Yeah.
It's $10 for a burger and fries.
I love it.
Come by, support our staff. All the dollars are just going to our team, and it's like, we're going to do curb service from 3 to 6. Just drive your car by. We'll load it up with burgers and fries. Just stuff like brilliant? That. Yeah, legit, it was the ultimate like communal, like, hey, we got to do something. Let's do it now.
Yes.
And it was a beautiful thing to see. So I always try to explain to people, during that time, you got to see a lot of good businesses stay afloat.
Yep.
You didn't see a whole lot of businesses that people didn't really, you go into businesses sometimes, and I know everybody felt this, especially after COVID, but you walk into a business and you wonder, does anybody really care here? And the people that, those businesses that you walk into where it's like everybody's there and looking at it as a job, as just a transaction.
Totally.
Those people didn't last. Yep. And I think that was for the better. I'm being honest.
Agreed. Here's what I just took from you guys that I just love is that these, again, COVID, big challenge. What if you saw it as a gift? And so I could hear that in your guys' voices. What you guys did in seeing it as a gift is, hey, maybe we need to change a few things. Like, maybe we're not giving enough love to the gyms, for example. Not that I'm accusing you of not doing it before, but boy, you sure did when you started doing fundraisers for them. What an opportunity to build real bonds, which I have no doubt today are like way stronger than they ever were because of how you guys stepped up. And even things like curbside service and just thinking outside the box. Don't you look back on it fondly now and go like, man, we did it. Like we had to think creatively. We had to pivot. We had to come up with like, man, I'm an entrepreneur, dude. I'm like a good businessman. What a gift. Why? Because of that challenge. And you talk about those businesses that didn't last. It's because they just only saw it as a challenge and like, there's nothing I can do. I hope the government
we'll just get
shows
through
up.
this and hope.
Crossing my fingers. Nope. Good luck to you. And that's a shakeout that sometimes this world needs to have. So who do you want to be? Do you want to be the one that gets shaken out or the one that's like, I'll adapt. I'll figure out a way. I will find a way. And that's, to me, that's the most successful humans on this planet. And that's a real differentiator, are the people who are like, I'll find a way, period. Yeah. That one sentence is the sentence that either makes you a very successful human or let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
The most challenging sentence that came out, I'll never forget, was when within, the first week of, let's say it was the last 2 weeks, 15 days to slow the curve or whatever it was.
Right. Oh man.
That turned into, 8 months or whatever it was. Right. So when they did the 15 days, and we're obviously a retail store, but Marcus, I don't know if you know this, we don't sell anything online. Nothing.
What?
That's right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Zero online sales. You have to physically get in your car and come to our store if we're going to be able to feed our families.
Wow.
So the first 2 weeks they had like, you remember how social media started to like reward certain posts, right?
Yeah.
Like if there was a support small business sticker, it got to see a million more eyeballs.
Totally.
Right? Stuff like that. But if you put the stay home sticker on there, you would get the most views. And so everybody was just stay home, stay home, stay home, stay home. And I'm like, guys, if you stay home, we can't feed our families.
Yeah.
And so we were lucky that we were able to stay open because we were considered an essential business.
Yeah.
But at the same token, we're also telling everybody, like, if you are selfish and you are a bad person if you decide to leave your house for something that you want and don't need. And man, that was a really tough 6 weeks.
I'm sure you're like us too, because if you're in the supplement industry, if you're in health, what do you look at a lot? I look at like statistics and data a lot. And so early on in COVID, you could see the statistics kind of bearing out as to who it was impacting early on, which early on they didn't know as much about the comorbidities, but you could tell the age that it was hitting. Yep. And that was the thing that was frustrating to me is early on, it was like, well, we need to be telling like senior citizens to stay home. We need to be like, but no talk of that. Right. And then you saw with the comorbidities and I'm like, well, somebody from the government's going to go on to TV and say, hey, everyone, we need to be exercising. We need to be healthy. Every night at 8:00, we're going to have, an exercise program that's sponsored by the government because obviously as a country, America especially, we need to lose weight. Nothing like that. And so the longer it went on, the more I was like, oh, this is not about like health.
This is never about actually keeping you healthy.
Nope.
Because if you look at the data and statistics on it, it was like, that's what was making me mad. And honestly, going back to what you were saying earlier about the news, it's also what made me kind of just check out and be like, I'm not taking part in that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to like let my mood be affected by the incompetence of what is happening in this whole situation. And so, that's when we went back to, just like, hey, focus on what you can focus on, control what you can control. And, we just basically executed our game plan and tried to level up our game plan during that time, which is what basically got us through it.
Make that experience in the store as best as we possibly can and try to, remove as much of the problems or friction for the customer.
So
good.
so let's talk about, you come out of COVID, you obviously rebound out of it. You've had a wildly successful run with Magnum.
Record year after he got out.
Year, which it was kind of crazy because that you get out of COVID and everyone's like, oh crap, I need to be in better shape. And so we had this slingshot of people being like, I need to get in better
Selling
shape.
a whole lot of zinc.
But, going into your decision to sell Magnum, was that also something that was, was that at the same time you decided to write the book, I guess would be my question?
About a year apart, wasn't it?
Yeah, these are great questions, guys. So the timeline, a week after I felt that calling, I started writing the book. And what's funny is when I received that calling, my first thought is, God, are you going to have me sell the business? And I actually felt he said no. And I was like, wow, that's wild. Because I was quite exhausted, as many entrepreneurs were through COVID. Like exhaustion was setting in. But no, I'm called to write this book. And so I start writing the book. And
I can't imagine you exhausted. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I didn't show it.
Yeah.
No, but not just exhausted. Mentally exhausted more than anything else. And so I write the book, and it was, I don't know, 6 or 9 months. And I'm getting close to the end of the book. And now I'm starting to go, okay, God, like I don't know any publishers. I don't know how this stuff works. What comes next? And I'm going into like a lot of prayer, deep prayer about this stuff. And then he said, now you sell your business. And I was like, and it was so clear, like crystal clear. I'm like, yep, I'm selling this thing. And I don't know if he said it or I just felt it, but I knew he was going to send somebody. It just felt like he told me the number I would get. He told me he'd send someone. He sent someone, and I got the exact number he told me I was going to get.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was wild. So one of the things I want to tell people, if you're ever thinking of selling your business, know why you're doing it. It's like anything in life. You have to know your why for anything. Because if you don't know your why, when the tough days come, you're going to crumble. But if you have a strong enough why, you'll keep going. So for me, I was very blessed to know that, hey, I know my next path, my next chapter in my life, whatever God's going to use me for next is going to be this amazing thing. It doesn't even necessarily mean, oh, so it's going to be better than Magnum. You're going to do more dollars than, no, not at all. I just know that I'm called to this next thing. And I don't have to look back, because I'll tell you, I really understand where people have identity crisis after selling their business. Like, I get it. It's shocking. Your identity was built in this thing for me for 19 years. It's actually 19 plus years, because when you think about it, the stores beforehand, selling supplements out of my bedroom beforehand, I mean, that was just the early days of Magnum, even though Magnum wasn't a thing yet. So it's like 25 years. That was my identity. And then in an instant, that you're not the guy anymore. People don't come to you anymore. People don't ask you those questions anymore. People aren't tagging you on posts anymore. You are no longer the Magnum guy. You're no longer the supplement guy. You're no longer the Canadian supplement, like all these things that, that's not you anymore. So I can imagine how often people be like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And what do I have now? And it's not like your next business starts like this or whatever you're supposed to be doing next. And we were joking about this before, but it's worth talking about on air. The idea of like, well, I'm just going to golf every day. I'm going to like retire. Holy smokes. People, look into what that actually looks like. As an entrepreneur, I don't know if I know a single entrepreneur who would be comfortable with that lifestyle. Like I know, trust me, Marcus, I want more time on the golf course. I want more time with my wife and kids. Yep. But you went from 60 to 90 to 120 hours per week to 0. And now you're going to spend all that time on the golf course and with your wife and your kids. Oof. Good luck. That's such a radical change. And our brains, I'm sorry, I don't think most brains can handle that radical of a change.
Yeah.
So, oh man, sorry, I'm rambling. I love talking with you guys. You guys are asking phenomenal questions.
You're either in the game or you're coaching the game.
That's right.
As the phrasing I like.
Yeah,
for
really good.
entrepreneurs is.
I don't really look at
the game. You're going to coach it.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about like retirement, like I think about my dad. Can't wait for retirement.
Yeah.
Hates his job. Yeah. Has hated his job for such a long time. And he's like, I'll do anything besides do my job anymore. But I think as entrepreneurs or as somebody who owns a business, you get into it because you love it, right? Yeah. You love business itself. Yeah. You love playing the game, right? And so it's like, if you love playing the game, you don't want to stop playing the game, even if as you get older, right? You might downsize the game. You might have a hobby business where you're just, figuring out, widgets that you can sell in a certain way, or you open like a convenience store. There's lots of different ways you can play the game on a smaller level, but it's like you don't ever lose the love of the game, And I think that, when you're talking about retirement, a lot of times people are thinking, I want to retire because I just absolutely hate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Which, kind of goes to a different problem that it runs through our society, is people just sticking it out through crap they hate.
Yes. So, I totally agree. I love that you're bringing this up, because I think those are two totally different human beings.
Yeah.
I think the person who has that 9-to-5 job and they've hated it for a long time, well, they're so different from entrepreneurs. And I'm not suggesting here one is better than the other, even though there's 3 entrepreneurs sitting here. But that 9-to-5 person, they never really bring their work home. Yeah. So they already had a different life for so many years. But the entrepreneur that business is just, it's in your veins. It doesn't just come out of your veins overnight. And we were talking about this before too, and it's so funny. How many of us gave up hobbies? And you start to go, I don't know if I even have a hobby. Like when I first sold the business, I'm like, oh, I have no idea what I'm going to do with myself. Like God, you're going to have to fill this time, because there's going to be a lot of time on my plate. And it's amazing how quickly you can fill that, but you want to start developing those hobbies. You want to start having those conversations. Again, finding other mentors who you respect, who you love, and you're like, well, what do you like to do? What excites you today? And it doesn't mean that they will give you the perfect answer, but just having that conversation will make your brain go, oh, I could do something similar. I could do that. Oh, I've always wanted to be a big brother. Oh, I've always wanted to work with kids in Haiti. Oh, I've always wanted to do this or that. And you start going down a path and you find new passion and excitement.
Yeah.
It's you have some uncharted territory that you feel led to go down, it seems like. In this book, which again, the book launch is just in the next few days. Is that right?
It started shipping 2 days ago. So tomorrow night, we're having one here in Kansas City. And man, if you guys are available, I'd love for you guys to come by. And we're just going to have a little get together. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to give everybody a little taste of what I do on stage. So, and we're going to talk about the book. I'm going to do some book signings, but I'm loving this, because everything's brand new and it's so different. There's so many wild things with the launch. So much goes into a book launch that I had no idea, that I'm just loving learning. Like, especially as a businessman, I'm out there hustling. I'm contacting businesses I know, entrepreneurs I know, doing bulk deals, working out how like some companies took 700 plus books, and now I'm going to go talk to their staff. One of my mentors, David Meltzer, he took 1,000 books and he's giving them out at his next conferences. That's so crazy and so fun, because he's putting them in the hands of the people who need it the most, who want it the most. And this thing's going to make impact. And
that's a cool thing that companies do for, like, I have a couple of Gary Vaynerchuk's books. Nice. Because of the same thing. Andy bought a bunch of Gary's books, and then he came and talked to us. And it's like, it makes the reading of the book more impactful.
Huge.
Us reading this book, sitting here having this conversation with you, it's going to make it more impactful.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you get to know the person who, and why did you write this? And why are all these challenges in this book? And, I didn't get a chance to say this before. Let me say this. If you read this book and you do the challenges, I am 100% confident your life will radically change for the positive. 100% confident. Because these challenges, they're simple. These aren't radical new ideas. Like, as you're reading through this book, there's nothing in this book. I mean, I don't even use big words in this book. This is my voice. If you are listening to me right now and there's something I'm saying that's getting through to you, or the way I speak is getting through to you, hey, pick up the Audible, by the way. That was one of really fun.
Did you read it yourself?
Heck yeah, I did.
That's awesome.
Because I wanted people to feel it and know, like, hey, this is why I wrote this. But I'm telling you, if you do these challenges, you won't even have to wait 24 hours for you to see a difference in your life, because the challenges are designed to make you go, oh my goodness, yeah, like I have more control over that. Just having these thoughts, it makes me more positive. It makes me, love my wife more. I have a better relationship with my kids. I sleep better at night. I'm eating better. I feel more convicted to get my workouts in and to care more about my health, so I can do more with my body, so I can show up all the way every single day. My life is on a different path.
You're 15 years old and you discover Tony Robbins through your brother. Is that right?
That's right.
Who is on your Mount Rushmore of personal development? Who are the people you look to outside of God and Tony Robbins?
Just real quick, Tony, I was so blessed in the last couple of years. I've been
that question was coming too.
I've been a platinum member. And so I got to travel with Tony. I got to spend I love that photo, man. And I just got to spend time with Tony. And it's so funny when I first told him that he's been my mentor for 30 years. I don't even think I got the words out. The tears started to come. He's had such an impact on my life. Another one of Andy's friends is Ed Milet, major mentor of mine. I love Ed. And Ed speaks my language, and I'm sure you guys can even recognize that. I love the way Ed teaches. He's a man of impact. He's a man of give back. David Meltzer, another major mentor of mine. While we're talking about mentors, I want to tell you guys this, and hopefully you even picked up on this, but I'm going to highlight it. At 15 years old, I get these cassette tapes from Tony Robbins, who becomes my mentor at 15. I did not need to know who Tony Robbins was. Tony Robbins does not need to know who I am. Even today, even though I've traveled with the guy, if you went and said, Marcus, I don't think he'll necessarily know you're talking about me. That's not how mentorship has to work. We all think mentorship is like, well, I have to spend the one-on-one. But no, if you pick up my book, I've become your mentor. If you want me to be. That's how it starts. And that's so cool. I have so many mentors. James Clear is one of my mentors. Atomic Habits is one of the greatest books that has ever been written if you want to start changing your life.
He loves that book.
Oh, it's brilliant. And the more times you go back to it, by the way, as entrepreneurs, number one book I can recommend, Good to Great, Jim Collins. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. I read it a bunch of years ago. And then a year ago, I started to listen to it again. And I listened to it 6 times on repeat because there are so many nuggets in there. And don't forget, at different points in your business and different points in your life, you're going to finally hear things in a way that you're supposed to hear them. So that thing radically changed my life again. There's another mentor. So I hope people can hear this and go, oh, maybe I need to redefine what mentor actually means. And it's just somebody who can teach you something about the path you want to be on and just absorb it, take it in, take what you want, discard the stuff you don't, and start putting it into action and watch your life change.
Yeah.
Dude, it was required reading for us to read Good to Great back in the day.
Yeah.
I feel like we're at the time where we need to make sure we write. We just got to get one of those for everybody in our company right now.
I love that.
Sure.
We're just
what you were saying about like things hit you at different times in your life. I've read The Magic of Thinking Big maybe 5 or 6 times.
Yes.
And it's like, in
Schwartz, is that right? Schwartz?
Yep. And every different part of your life, things hit you, or different parts of your business life, of your personal life, things just hit you in a different way.
Yes.
And things that used to hit you in a certain way don't anymore.
Yeah.
Because you've kind of outgrown them.
Yes.
And
like watching a Disney movie again,
So true.
You know it is.
Yeah.
But those
I do have 3 kids. I do watch them.
You watch them, you're like, man, Mighty Ducks just wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Just
Amelia.
Yeah. Come on, dude.
That's not at the
I did
roster.
watch.
I know.
I did watch Sandlot with my daughter probably a couple months ago.
Still slaps.
Still the best movie.
Yes.
Did you see that video I sent you with Smalls yesterday? What? Oh, guys. All right.
Oh, no, I sent you that.
No, it was me that sent me that.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, never mind.
Social media is good for one thing, figuring out what Smalls is doing with his life.
Unfortunately, Smalls got drunk and went to his neighbor's house with a knife looking for his wife.
Oh.
And then threw a 35-pound dumbbell through a Wrangler windshield.
Yeah.
Oh.
This was just like a few days ago.
He needs to read your book, brother, because he might be...
The 4th of July might be a tough time for him every
He might be
year.
in distress currently.
Oh, no. Who is Smalls, by the way?
Smalls is off The Sandlot, the famous movie The Sandlot. The actor
He's
that played
the
Smalls.
main- he's
As
the
an
main
adult
character.
right now, he's not doing so hot. Apparently in this video, but he got arrested and let go on $1,000 bond and apologized to his neighbor. So this video told us. Anyways, you're in Kansas City. You got how many days here?
3.
And
or 4.
you spend quite a bit of time in Kansas City.
Yeah.
Right? You have in the past.
I love it.
It's time
I love Kansas City.
It's also time to shout out some very good friends, Micah and Diana.
Yes.
They've been very, very good to you, obviously, and you've been very good to them. But is this something that you guys have organized?
Huge
together?
partnership with them for a long time.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm not beating the God drum too much here, but God has really connected us more over the last few years. So we've been friends for 15 years. We started working together so long ago, probably around 15 years ago.
He was your personal trainer at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Is this right?
Yeah. I did some big transformations with him. And I love those two human beings. They're just such good people. And if you aren't following them, go follow them. They're so positive. They're so loving. They're so encouraging. But over the last few years, our paths have just been totally aligned. Those are two of my favorite human beings on the planet, two of my best friends. And so one, it's an honor to come out here. One of the funniest things is we have a running joke. They've never met my wife. I've been married, this year is 20 years.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Huge congrats.
Yeah. And I'm obsessed with my wife. I love my wife. So it's really funny that they've never met her. So there's this always running joke, like people are like, she's not even real. And I'm like, my real wife is going to be here this time. Yeah. So they actually get to meet my wife tonight. That's so exciting.
Very awesome.
Yeah. And, people, when I say, I've got my book tour, I've got Vancouver first, and then second is Kansas City. They're always like, why? Why are you going to Kansas City? And it's like, because of the work that those two do and how everybody just loves Mike and Diana, everybody loves HitchFit. HitchFit impacts so many lives so positively, and SoulFit retreats, which they invited me in right away. So I've been on a bunch of trips with them, and I get to speak on these trips and just share my love with people. Kansas City was the natural second choice for my book tour, because there's so many people here who know me, who know my voice, who want to come see me. There's one of the people from SoulFit has driven 18 hours to be here to come to this book launch.
How exciting!
That's wild, right?
Very
There's people flying in from all over the U.S. to come to this book launch. So, it's going to be a really exciting night.
Definitely making an impact. We're very excited for you. I'm excited to dive into the book fully, and I'll make sure to share my first challenge I follow through with.
Oh, I'd love that. By the way, I love hearing takeaways. So please, everybody, if you read my book, if you read even a few words of my book, if something impacts you, will you please reach out to me? That is the biggest gift you can give me. And I would love to give you a gift back in return. But just let me know what was your takeaway?
Where can they reach out to you?
This is the best time to ask. Yeah, where's the best way?
Yeah, awesome. Playbiggergame.com. That's where I spend all my time. You can find me there. You can reach out to me there. Of course, social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm one of those people who actually responds to messages. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to be part of your life. When I get to impact someone's life, that excites me so much. That's what I've been put here to do.
You're in a spot now where you're no longer, required to have greased abs on the covers of magazines and boxes of supplements. You're here in Kansas City. One of the best things we have here is our barbecue. Tell me you're going to have something. I see you packed a cooler for this, so the lifestyle's not changing too much.
No, it's such a lifestyle. Like I just love eating clean. It makes me feel right. I do intend to have some barbecue while I'm here. Yes.
Do you have a certain favorite? Do you have one that Micah and Diana are saying you need to have?
I don't even know if they've ever had barbecue.
We asked Micah.
He was like, wait, what was his answer?
He's like, in 2003,
yeah.
I had. He's like, even then I'm getting pulled turkey or something like that.
Totally.
You know what I mean? But they are, there's not like, there's obsessed, and then there is just who I am through and through. And I think they hit the nail on the head with that.
Absolutely.
I love that they do that. They do like a prep every year, even if they're not stepping on stage,
Yep.
just the photo shoot that they do to go on a trip together and do a photo shoot together. I think it's a really great practice.
Isn't that wild?
I love that they do that.
Brilliant.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We absolutely love that you came by. We love
Thank
talking
you so
to you.
much,
Really
man.
appreciate you sharing your story.
Yeah.
And we're excited to dive into this book, and I can't wait to hear more about tomorrow night's festivities.
Oh, guys, I just want to tell you how grateful I am to be here with you guys. I think you're amazing. I think what you're doing is amazing. You're doing a spectacular job, not only in your business, but in this podcast. And one last gift I want to give to you guys. Everybody listening, will you please just take 2 minutes, go and rate this podcast. Give them the 5-star review. It is such a big deal. It means that more people are going to see it, more people are going to hear it. And it just lifts these two guys up who deserve it. They put in so much effort, so much work. You know how many people are in this room right now? How many people make this podcast happen? At the very least we can do is go give them an amazing review.
Let's go. Thank you very much, man.
Appreciate you, brother.
Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, guys.
Man, you did that way better than we did.